Fantastic. Okay, I should be recording right now. As I said before, we're going to get started basically downloading RStudio, and you're going to basically look at what it's like to work with R just to get started with it. And to do that, actually, I would like to share a little bit more of what I have here. I'm going to actually share, let's see. Well, we'll come to that later. What I want to take us to is the actual course, not the course website, but the RStudio website. So before we get there, I think the fundamental starting point for anything having to do with R. Hello there. Hi. We have another person joining us. R-project.org is essentially the go-to webpage. The difficulty with R is, in essence, it was created out of the S+ language many decades ago, and no one had really anticipated the fact that you can't really Google R, it's just a letter. So it's sometimes difficult to find information on R as a programming language and in terms of the packages available. So the starting point, I would say, is go to r-project.org, and here you get a lot of additional information about installing R, as well as getting help with R. And of course, there are other resources. Now, I'm going to show you today how to install R on a, should be able to see my mouse now. Let's see, mouse. Can you see my mouse? We'll see here. I'll stick with this. We're going to get started installing R on a PC. I actually have an operating system for Windows 7. It's very much the same on a Macintosh computer. I can give you the links for that. For now, we're going to install RStudio on a regular computer. So how do we install the software needed for the class? Well, let's do this. It's very easy to do. Basically, here, I'll start with this, RStudio, download. Everything you can almost find with Google nowadays, except if you want to look for specific aspects of R. So you go to download rstudio.com, and you'll see here, you want to choose your version of RStudio. Now, R has two different flavors, you could say, or two different kinds of software. You have the free license, which is what we're using for the course, which is what you're going to have. You also have another free version, which is the RStudio server. Personally, I recommend the RStudio desktop, primarily because you can run this without an internet connection. You'll need it to start off. After that, you won't need an internet connection. You're a little bit more liberated. If you want to use the web-only application, we can also talk about that later. But today we're going to focus on the RStudio desktop free license. It's the one that I use. It's the one that all of my colleagues use. It's essentially what's needed for the course. As you see here, there are a lot of other options that they are selling. These are primarily for companies or scientific labs that are very large, that have online collaboration. I'll give you, Google, for example, uses two programming languages. They use R and they use Python. And that's really cool that you guys get to start a statistics using the exact same software that Google uses, and that most of the leading data scientists and statisticians use. So to start off, let me show you right here. You just simply click download right here, and you're going to see different versions here. Now, you're going to look for your operating system, whatever your computer is. This might be a little difficult to see, but here we have RStudio, and it has the version type. Here's some additional information, more techie, not really relevant. Ignore the source code and also these zipped files. These are more for software development. What you want to do is you just want to go click to find your operating system. So if you're a Macintosh person, use that. If you're a PC person, you're using that. I would say 99% of you are going to either download one of those two versions. So here I'm operating on Windows 7, but of course you can use newer versions of Windows right here. So let's start off right here, and it should be downloading. And I'm gonna actually try to open my desktop. I'm gonna share with all of you my entire desktop so you can actually see everything here. So oh yes, sorry about that. Yes, we have a question here. Could you turn off your Alina? Could you turn off your microphones and ask your question?
Yes. Hi, Nathan. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes, of course.
So I'm just joining in to listen in and learn. So quick tip or a question, if you will. In my other classes that I've taken through Zoom, which I absolutely adore because it's just such an interactive environment for distant students like myself from Washington, D.C.
Oh, hello.
Hey. I noticed some of our instructors would record the sessions, like, for example, everything you say and also show on the screen to, like, review later.
Yes.
So would that be available for our hours, these hours? I know the lectures are recorded.
Absolutely. So everything we're doing here is recorded. Of course, we also value students' privacy. So
sure.
We may... I'll talk with the course producer to see how we can edit this, unless you're comfortable being on,
I consent.
Okay. Thank you, Alina, and welcome.
Thank you so much. Sorry for the interruption. Yeah.
No, not at all. Not at all. So right now you should actually see what is in essence a kind of a messy toolbar down here. You guys see all of that? Right, and then you see a little Zoom icon right here. Okay, here's the desktop interface. What you'll see in my workflow actually is you'll see a lot of different kind of software. I'm not beyond using Excel. I'm not beyond using Word. I've been using this little thing called Stata, but unless I've uninstalled it, here we have RStudio. I'm going to bring this on board, and you can sort of take a preview here. I'm going to uninstall this. Hello, welcome. We have another person here. So I'm going to uninstall right now. And by the way, if you're going to reinstall, I should say this, if you're going to reinstall RStudio, it's always a good case. I know this seems basic for some people perhaps. It's always a good idea to uninstall the earlier version. In particular, this is extremely important if you want to transition from the desktop version of R to the web version of R. You cannot install both simultaneously. So in that case, you're going to have to uninstall this. So I'm going to uninstall right here. So I am really sort of taking a punch to the stomach here for this course. I am an avid user of RStudio and of R in general, and here I've actually removed it from my desktop. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the internet, and we're going to go back to, where are we now? Well, looks like I might have inadvertently closed that. So I'm going to take us back into back online, and we're going to go and install. We're going to type in RStudio download. Going to go back to our page here. And we're going to open the web page. Just take a double click here. As I said before, for those of you who just joined us, we have 4 flavors, 4 versions of RStudio. We're taking the free version right now. Now, as if you had read over the course materials, you'll see that RStudio is what they call an integrated development environment for R. In other words, as we'll see, after I install R, you'll actually see what that really means. In tech language, call it an IDE. This is in contrast to the actual R syntax or programming language, which is merely, or not merely, but primarily code-based. This adds to that code what is called a GUI interface, or graphical user interface. That's GUI. So we're going to download, so just go to the green button, we're going to download, you're going to look for your operating system on your computer, but you have to make sure you're connected to the internet. We'll see that we are. I'm connected to Harvard right here. So we're all ready to go, and I just uninstalled R. It's going to ask me, well, do I want this? Of course I do. You'll have a DMG file, and we're going to go to downloads, and let's see if we can just download it really quickly for us, actually. Oh, okay. Here, I'll bring the .exe, the installation file, to the desktop. You'll actually see what it looks like. I'm going to minimize this window. This is what's going to be in your download file. I'm going to double click this sucker, and it'll ask me, oh, you want to run this? Well, it should have. Let's see if we can bring that window forward. Open. Okay, here we are. So we're going to run this. We're going to install this person. RStudio is currently running. No, it isn't, because we uninstalled this. So let's close that. Okay. Let's see if we can try this one more time. Let's run it again. Here we go. Okay. The installation setup, pretty straightforward. You're going to go with all of the defaults here. Going to go next. It's going to select the installation folder, program files in a PC operating system. It'll just create a new folder called RStudio. That's fine. It'll ask some other questions if you want to create a shortcut, those kinds of things. Just basically click install. And as you'll see, it won't take that much time. Are there any questions as I'm installing RStudio at the moment? Okay. As soon as it's installed, I'm going to show you.
Well, Nate, I may be getting ahead of myself, but in the reading, it had us install Mosaic. And when it installed Mosaic, you had to select a geography.
Yes.
And there was a series of selections there. I wasn't quite sure which one to pick or whether it mattered. So I think I picked Kansas, which, who hates Kansas, right?
Well, actually, I grew up in Kansas. Are you from Kansas, Don?
I'm not. I'm in Oklahoma, actually, which is close to Kansas.
Okay, we're neighbors. I spent the first 2 decades of my life in Kansas. I went to Kansas State University. So.
Well, so that was a good pick then, is what you're saying.
Absolutely. So what you're asking about, Don, actually, we may want to address that issue. And you're not getting ahead of yourself, actually. What you're doing right here, actually, is so here. I'm going to start from square one. I'm actually going to uninstall. I'm going to take you a couple steps back, Don, because in some ways you're a couple steps forward, in a couple ways. I was anticipating the Mosaic project, and I was going to describe that a little bit more. But I'm going to actually take us a little bit further back, which is basically RStudio works on the R programming language. So it automatically does that for you, typically. But because I've actually, I have used R before, it's not asking me that question again. That's just the first question you're going to ask. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to uninstall both RStudio, and then as you'll see here, I got a bunch of other programs, but you'll see we see RStudio. We're going to uninstall this sucker. And then we see R for Windows 3.2.4. And I'm going to uninstall that. Yeah, we're going to uninstall that. Don, may I ask you a question? Did you just download RStudio and you were prompted that question?
No, I downloaded R first. It was on the computer, and then I downloaded RStudio. But then in the reading material, it had me bring in Mosaic. And when I executed that command to bring it in, or whether it was, I can't remember whether it was when I installed it or when I loaded it, it asked me to pick that character set or whatever it was.
Okay. All right. So we'll take two steps in this approach then. That isn't always the case, but I'm going to show you how to do we'll do this in 2 steps then. Actually 3. We're going to download R, the language. Which is the basis. You can do everything in this course and everything in the world with R. But it's not as fun, I have to tell you. RStudio is what is called in tech language a wrapper in many ways. It is the interface in which it sort of sits on top of R and lets you work with R, but in a way that's more fun, more interactive. The third thing that we're discussing is what are called libraries. In software development, there are 2 ways of thinking about software or programming languages. There's a term that is called free as in speech and free as in beer, to use that reference. I'm not sure of the origin of that, but the point is R has both of these features. R is free as in beer in the sense that it is free. Anyone can download it. It does not cost anything. This is in contrast to many common stat programs. I'm sorry, could someone actually mute their mic? I think that's Subradha. Welcome. If you don't mind muting your microphone. So as I was saying, you can buy the statistical package, but R is free and RStudio is free. Free as in speech means anyone can contribute to its development. So RStudio, or rather R and RStudio, are free in both respects. It's a community in which you can create what are called packages, and that's what Mosaic is. Mosaic is a package. A bunch of statisticians got together and basically wrote a combination of code that lets you do really cool stuff with R, and you don't have to do any additional programming. You're using what they do. So what we're going to do to get started is we're going to start with downloading base R. We're going to download RStudio for Windows. And then we're going to install the library, the Mosaic library. And then once you do all of that, you no longer need to be connected to the internet, as long as you do those 3 things. But you have to be connected for each one of those 3. Okay, so let's start with rproject.org. That's the square one. So let's just click here. You can sort of see what we have here. The contributed packages, that's what Mosaic is. CRAN is what you were referring to when you ask about, where do you go? Here's some basic information about R. We don't need to address that, although I'm happy to discuss this. I just really want us to get the ball rolling. Okay, getting started. If you want to download R, it'll tell you it's free. Here's some specific languages. What you're talking about when you talk about the region, and it doesn't really matter. I was going to answer that question. If you're from Oklahoma, it's probably better to download a CRAN mirror that's closer to your location. CRAN is short for Comprehensive R Archive Network. Now, started out with R is that because it is collaborative, free as in speech and free as in beer, it is started out with several universities who are hosting these large computers through which you can download the software. So it's best to pick the location. When you download R, you'll get a pop-up window that prompts where do you download or what crayon mirror do you want to use. It's not going to affect your performance really, but try to pick something at least within your country. I think I get mine. I live in Boston. I think I have mine through Johns Hopkins, for example, but it doesn't really matter. But that's all that is. These are essentially basically areas where you can download the source code. But other than that first step, you can forget about where you downloaded it. I honestly don't remember. Okay, so we're going to click on this first thing. We're going to just go click the download R. Actually, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go right here. You can download this version. It says it's a buggy version. It has other versions. I would recommend probably an earlier version like 3.2.3, primarily because you won't have any bugs in them. The newest versions, you might run into some difficulties. We're going to stay on the safe side, download the second most important one. So here, it's actually going to save it as a zip file. Okay, so it just downloaded. I'll put this on the screen here. So here you have the zip file, and you're going to click here. Do we have this? Okay. Now you should be able to. No. So, whoops. Okay. What I actually just did there is I downloaded the source code. You don't want to do that. I'm going to give you an easier version for that. Okay. Here we go.
I noticed you use Mozilla. Nate, do you care which browser we use?
Oh, thank you, Don. That's a great question. I use Mozilla because of its add-ons. Your web browser should not matter, not at all. I think the best approach, actually, when I was thinking about doing this, just Google what you want to download. So if I Google like download our project, download Windows 7, you can do that if you want to have. Does anyone else have a different operating system?
I have Windows 10.
Yeah.
What's that?
The newer Windows.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, I have Windows too. I have a quick question. So I'm here. I went to the Duke University, just randomly picked.
Yes.
Subdirectioners, and there is based, contributing are R tools, options to download the mirror. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, or you're as well. Is there a difference?
So you should download R, base R. So it should be something like this. I think what you're talking about, perhaps Alina, are maybe dev tools. Is that what it's called? DEVTOOLS?
No, it's CRAN, CRAN. Oh God. Brain is for base distribution. This is the way to install R for the first time.
Ah, okay.
So please, I'm lost. I have R and it's the right version, but I'm not sure about the Mosaic plugin. Let me just stay quiet and let you take us there.
Okay. So here's the easiest version to download. Base R is simply Google it, actually. What I had inadvertently downloaded the actual source code. So here's some of the difficulty getting through this. I guarantee you, once you get over this little hurdle, you won't have to think about it again. Just if you want to Google R-project, download Windows 7. Very easy. And then we'll quickly get to Mosaic. All right, so here we have this. We're gonna just click on the first link here. And I will save these links as well. We'll provide these on the website so you can actually get right to it. You just want to download a .exe file or a .dmg file. You don't want to download anything else if you're going to download RStudio. As I mentioned before, try to download the earlier version. I'll take us to the download folders. Okay, it's taking a little while to download. I want to talk a little bit, I'll take the time for it to download. Okay, it's been downloaded. Okay, great. So we're going to delete the code. This is what you really want. You basically want an exe file for R, preferably the earlier version, although it doesn't necessarily matter. And then you want RStudio. So here you can Google it both ways, but you want to install R first and then install RStudio. If it's the first time, you want to make sure your computer is connected to the internet, as I said before. So let's get us through here. We're going to run this thing. You can select your language of choice. That's a great thing about this. The course is in English. We're going to do it in English for now. It'll have the same setup wizard. This is just basically a lot of general information. This is a public license. It's for the community. It's has some specifications. This will ask you where you want to put it. We'll install this person right here. And you want to install everything. I have both 64 and 32-bit files because I run on a 64-bit machine. If you're only 32-bit, make sure you have that. Otherwise, just click Next. Go ahead with the default. Startup operations. Do you want to customize the startup operations? I would just accept the defaults. We're not really caring that too much about it. It'll create a folder for R as your basic path file. We'll do that, and we're going to create a desktop icon. So you should be able to see on the desktop, and here we are. That being said, you won't have to worry about R. And I'm saying worry about it because there is a relatively steep learning curve for this. I know Nobel Prize-winning economists who have written books on R and would prefer to go to their their software of choice. And as we go here, we're going to install. Okay, finish. So there's R. I'm going to open this up just to give you an idea of what this looks like. It's actually gotten better over the years. R has grown exponentially, but as you see, it's pretty bare bones. There's a little bit of a graphical user interface here. You can sort of do, look at some of the data that they have installed here, but nothing else here. You can do some basic math. 2 plus 2. There you go. You get a vector 4. You want to assign stuff. I'm just sort of playing around. Let's say 2 plus 2, or how about this, A and B. Whoops. Well, object A not found. Okay. Well, anyway, you get kind of an idea here, and there is a help file here. It'll give you other information, but really it's pretty bare bones. What we're going to have here with RStudio, just to preface this, is you're going to have this. This is called the R console. When I type enter to submit a command, we call it executing a command. This is R lingo. You're going to see this within RStudio, but you're going to see a lot of other cool stuff too. So let's close this. And I'm not going to save this image. Now we're going to go to RStudio. We're going to install this. I uninstalled RStudio. And So what's interesting actually is perhaps because I've used R before, it didn't ask for me to select a location, a crayon mirror as it's called. We'll see if that happens when I reinstall RStudio. Again, rule of thumb, just select the university or the institute hosting the mirror that's closest to you. No,
It didn't ask me that until I loaded Mosaic.
okay, thank you.
When I installed Mosaic, that's when it asked me that.
Okay, thank you for that. Great. So now we have RStudio installed. Let's just see if we have it. Okay, we're gonna open it from here. I have it in my start. Okay, here we are. Now, what I wanted to show, first of all, was the basically the console as I described before. This was kind of base R, but this is all the other cool stuff that we have. We have a couple panels here. So we're going to start off with an R script. R script is basically coding. Some of the developmental tools, Alina, that you had asked, those often use other kinds of packages that are called developmental tools. You know, that's the name of it. But the main point here is let's just start off with a real easy R script. In contrast to base R, not only do you have the console, but you have something that you can save that is going to save your syntax, basically. So I'm going to start real basic here. A hashtag or a pound sign is where you comment things out. This is a comment. And it turns green. So it actually has some nice sort of syntax interface. This is gibberish. It means nothing, but I'm going to save this. And it's red if you don't save the actual thing. So we're going to file, save as. We'll save this to the desktop. Okay. Install Mosaic. And you shouldn't have to specify what kind of file it is. Let's see if we can find it here on the desktop. I'm going to minimize everything. Here we are. Okay, so this is what the icon for an R script file looks like. And
sorry, I probably missed it. How do I install Mosaic? Do you have?
Yes, that is exactly what we're going to do right now as we speak. I'll show you actually right here. So here is, we'll look at that later. What I want to show to you is actually this little thing called packages. I have a lot of packages installed here. So I've already installed Mosaic. Let's see if I can uninstall that. No, I actually didn't want to do that. Let's close it. Let's close out of here. If you quit an R session, you should be able to start with a clean slate. Okay, great. So the first time ahead, and you only have to do this once. I'm going to type actually in the upper left corner, the top level. To install Mosaic, you just type install, and you have a sort of I guess a completion. It gives you a suggestion in RStudio, which they don't give you in regular R. You've installed packages, and you have a little bit of information here. You can also get that in the help file. But this is what you have to type. And this is, for, by the way, for any package. And you type Mosaic. And that should be it. Okay, so I'm going to highlight this with my keyboard, and I'm going to press Control-D to run it. Oops, sorry, Control-Enter to run it. And here we are. It says installing Mosaic, and you'll see that it's installed. Although if you notice earlier, I already had it installed, but it just overrode the earlier version. It updated it. It gives you the location of the file, and it says it is successfully installed. That's all that you have to do to have Mosaic installed. Now, this is crucial. What I have just demonstrated rather, is how to, well, first of all, uninstall R and RStudio in the Windows interface, which is important if you want to use the web version. I have installed base R, and then installed RStudio. Finally, I installed the Mosaic package. Here, this was everything that was required for online help. Now, it looks like because I've installed this before, despite the fact that I uninstalled it, it didn't actually give me the pop-up window to ask for the comprehensive R network mirror, but just, again, select the geographic location closest to you. And you should have this. And this is where you want to be. Now, this is crucial. Every time you open, I'm going to close RStudio again. I'm going to save this. Every time you open R, I'm going to see if I can find, you know, try to use what was I going to say? Try to use actually one of the functions within Mosaic. So let's just try. Let me try something that's quite easy. Let's just see if this example works. Oh, there's an error message. You see that? It could not find the function plot distribution. So RStudio is acting as if I never even installed Mosaic. That happens every time you restart. And this is because even though I have it installed, and you can look here under packages in the lower right-hand corner, we'll type in Mosaic. I have Mosaic here. I even have the data. So what's going on here? Well, what happens is that there's a two-step process. One occurs the very first time. That's installing packages. I just typed in hashtag install packages Mosaic because we don't have to worry about this anymore. But what we do need is we need to actually invoke it. We need to tell R that, hey, you know what? I have a bunch of packages here. Actually, if you look at my packages here, we'll see, if you look at how many I have, there's nothing here. Now, there are two ways to tell R that you want to use the Mosaic package. I'm going to show you the graphical user interface version. You simply click it right here. And look, it does all of that magic right here. Now, it gives you a couple warning messages, by the way, because of different version. This should not be a problem. If it is, do let me know. Oh, yes, Alina.
Just a quick question. I'm trying to follow your steps on my screen. So I'm right here. I did install packages and Mosaic and everything popped up. You said highlight everything and then enter, and then it would kind of removes my text.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
I'm so far away from programming. I apologize.
No, that's okay. So thank you for letting me know. What you can do, and this is why we have RStudio, I will show you how to install this without using any keyboard shortcuts. I apologize for that. But if you want to use it, you can do everything via a keyboard shortcut, or you can do it via the mouse. Now,
I'd love to learn.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're going to learn both ways. You know, this is both a blessing and a curse with R, is that there are many ways to do things. And if you look, you know, there are many flavors of doing that, you know, reaching the same end goal. So to run code, type this, Control plus Enter. So you want to highlight first, and then I type Control, and then I type Enter. You don't see that. It wants me to restart because I want to install it. We won't do that for now, but you'll see that. Now, I'm going to show you the other way to do this, which is you can run the current selection. You just take your cursor and you want to run the script. And it says even right here, if you look at this, it says, or type Control plus Enter. So the nice thing about using the GUI or graphical user interface system is you can actually just run the script and doing this, and it'll do the same thing. Identical. So thank you, Alina. From now on, I will actually just use the graphical user interface. Oh, you got it. Fantastic. A little tip Alina, did you type mosaic, the word mosaic in quotes?
Yes, and then it generated kind of a prompt me like a mosaic or mosaic data. So I chose mosaic,
Mm-hmm.
and it was prompting me, like helping me. It was the same like when I was typing install, it said packages, so I just clicked that, and then mosaic too.
Okay.
And now it's doing a lot of things still.
Okay.
Like it's doing its thing.
Okay, if it's doing its thing, typically you want to see just blue colors, even if there's a warning package.
There's a lot of red and stops for now.
What's that?
There's a lot of red font and stop.
Okay.
Package color space successfully up. I'm gonna let it finish, and then if there's an issue, I can send you a screenshot.
Absolutely. Please do send a screenshot. I'm happy to help. Okay, great. Thank you. A little tip. This technically doesn't necessarily matter, but good programming, yeah, of course it matters. You want to type this within quotation marks, and if you notice, it's the blue color. It understands, the computer understands this to be actually a package. I'm sure you're kind of wondering, well, what are packages and what are libraries? I'm guessing. Can those of you on screen nod your head if you think it's kind of strange to think about packages and these kinds of things? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Are you Christina? Is that how you say it?
It's Christiana.
Oh, Christiana.
Christiana, yes.
Oh, thank you. Okay, great. I'm sure if I had these same kinds of questions too, and I apologize in advance that I'm sort of taking you through the nuts and bolts of just getting us to have where we want to be without really fully explaining as much as I think we all want what it is. So we'll get back to this. But what I want us to be in the position of is to install these packages. So, and I'll write these steps down as well. So we run this. So I want us to take us back to assuming we got everything. Let's just assume that we got RStudio installed. You get to see a lot of R icons. We don't want to see that. We want to see our RStudio icon. Let's see if we can get that on the desktop. Well, I'm not sure how to do that. Let's see if I can just drag. Okay, here we go. This is what you want. You want the beautiful R sphere. And this is all you have to do. You double click this sucker. And after you've done what I said, you are all ready for the course. You don't have to worry about computer programming. You can have, it is your sandbox you can play, except with one thing. And this is what you're going to have to run every time. And it's this command. Keep in mind, if you recall, I have I have Mosaic in the Mosaic library installed. Okay. That should be a £. Remember, a £sign is a comment, and it'll turn green. RStudio is kind of helpful in some ways because it'll give you a little red that warns you, hey, this is an error in your code. Okay. Now, you want to type this, library, type it in quotes. I actually just hit shift and then one quote, and it automatically gives you two. And then you want to install Mosaic. What this does is basically your computer has installed Mosaic, but it doesn't know whether you want to use it. So it's sort of like, and they use the term library for a lot of these packages, even though they call, see, this is a little bit of difference in terminology. A package, the R lingo, we typically call them packages or libraries. Let's use the library metaphor. We have basically brought into our home a library, but the door is locked. And what this library command does is it unlocks the key to that room. And we want to open the this thing right here. And you have to do this every time you run code. Anytime you do anything involving a Mosaic command or any of the syntax that we cover in the course, you're going to have to run this. And it'll give you some other warning messages. But that's what you have to run every single time. And as I showed you before, it didn't recognize that. But look what happened to our writes. We got these things clicked. So if we look at our packages, we have a lot of unclicked packages. But that one is clicked. I'll show you with another package, for example, what this looks like. So here, I kind of like this little package. This is called Beeper. It's a very fun, simple package. It's now uninstalled. I'm sorry, I don't want to say uninstalled. It is installed. It's just it's not activated within my current session. So I'm going to type library, and then I'm going to type Beeper. And then I'm going to type run. Okay. Well, in this case, it looks like actually it accepted the fact that I didn't have quotes. Good coding conventions, if you really want to be persnickety, you want to use that. Okay, so now we have that. Now take a look in your lower right-hand corner, and you can look at your environment, but let's go to packages. Look, I'll put a little check mark there. And so you can do install using the check mark method. So let's install another package I have. Or let's uninstall one here. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is required. Whoops. Ah, shoot. Okay, never mind. That was already checked. Let's find something else. Okay. So here I just used, and it gives you also the command. I did library for this. There's a bunch of gibberish when I use the graphical user interface. Ignore that. If I wanted to do this just by the package name, you do that itself. So I open the door for that. You can open it using the check mark version. You can use it doing the syntax version. I prefer the syntax version. I'm going to press Control S to save this script. And here we are. We're actually ready to go. We have basically the R interface. Are there any questions at this point, or anything else you'd like to know about essentially installing base R, RStudio, and the Mosaic package?
Is Mosaic the only package we'll need for the course? I saw a reference to a package called Psych, which had a lot of graphic capabilities, but is Mosaic all we'll need?
That's a great question. Now, I will let you know. Let's see. Okay. It looks like we will. Thank you, Don, for anticipating that. The reason I did a little quick Control F search within the Mosaic library or package is that I'm gonna answer your question. But I do want to emphasize one little thing here, which is that when you install one package in RStudio, if it's working properly, and do let me know if that's not the case, it'll install other packages, which are typically called dependencies. In other words, this is a bundle of packages. This isn't just one package that you installed. So I wanted to double check to see if the Psych package was installed. And in fact, it isn't. So let's do that. I'm going to install packages right here. Double click that. You don't have to do this, but I like to do this. And it's PSYCH, I believe, is that package. And you can highlight that. And you're going to run it. And here we are. I've already had it installed, and it's installed, but there we go. Okay, so we installed that. Now remember, we have to actually tell our computer that we're interested in using this package today. So we're going to actually do that as well. And that's what it should look like. They call it attaching a package. So there you go. I will check, Dawn, to see if, through the course to see if there are any other packages left awry. This is the neat thing about R, and this is what I talk about in terms of free as in speech. There's a lot of software that you can buy, statistical software, where you have to pay for the service, but then you have a community of people who actually use the software, and they help develop and expand that. And these are often called user-written packages. So think of this also, if you want to think about it in terms of libraries, think of these packages as Wikipedia articles, in the same way that 20 years ago, if you wanted to do something, do some statistics, you had to buy something. You had to buy Encyclopedia Britannica. Well, the cool thing about R is it's Wikipedia. I can develop a package, you can develop a package. A friend of mine actually has created one of the most popular packages called Stargazer. It helps you create tables within R. So that's something, the neat thing about R, its flexibility. And the consequence of this is that there are multitudes of packages that you can download online everywhere. I think at last count there were about 15,000 packages to use. And a package can do many different things. Beeper, for example, just creates a funny little sound if you're running scripts. I run a code that sometimes takes a really long time. It has a little beep or a little fanfare, kind of like a timer if you're baking a cake. These are the only packages that you should use. I'll tell you that typically the way that I work is once I install my package the first time, and you won't need to do it again, I comment it out. And I do that to remind myself that I have that installed. And then I have a little section here where I basically invoke the requisite packages each time I start my R session. And for this course, I think this is a good starting point. And then if you want to do something else, you can do a little bit of commenting out, create a little bar here and begin right there. And there you should be totally fine. Now, a related question is whether or not Mosaic data is also required. And let's install that just in case. Looks like I don't have this installed. Why don't I have Mosaic installed? Okay. Well, who knows why. Okay. So I'm going to install one more package, which will be Mosaic data. And then here, I want to mention the case is actually relevant and important. R recognizes this when you're creating variables, for example. It'll actually recognize this. And I'm going to go off on a little tangent. This is kind of fun. This is actually called camel case script. If you're a real techie person, why don't they capitalize the first letter? Well, because the real programmers don't do that. They call it a camel case because you see nothing, and you see a little bump for the new word there. That's why you'll see that. But we're going to actually install this again, and I'm going to type run here, click run. It'll ask me to restart the R session. That's okay. And then we're installing. Okay. And then I'm going to comment this out. Remember, type shift, put the pound sign. I put a space there. And let's put that away. And then remember, every time you invoke a package, you should do this as well. I'm copying and pasting this. Just adding the word data right here. And I'm going to highlight all 3 of these. You should be able to run this, each time. See, I could just run this forever. It doesn't really care. Okay, so here we got started with our, I think one of the biggest questions perhaps is maybe still, what is a library? What is this? Christina, did I answer that at all by using the Wikipedia metaphor? Does that help at all? It's okay if it's still confusing. Okay, your mic is off. I'm not sure.
Sorry. It's okay. It's more confusing.
What's that?
It's really helping. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. The main point is, if it gets too overwhelming and confusing, which is actually a criticism of R increasingly, is there's, yes, Don. Oh, sorry. Okay, I thought you had a question. It can get overwhelming because there's so much to learn, so much stuff. If you want to stay within the tight parameters of what is required to learn the course and get started, just have fun. This is what you need. This is all that we need. And I'm going to type in these comments actually a bit of additional advice here. Again, if you recall, this is just the console. This is something you save for script. Well, we have some more time. If you don't mind, I'm going to walk us through just sort of the elements of the RStudio interface, just so you have an idea of what are we looking at? What is this? What is this thing? And I guess more importantly, later on, where to seek help. So the default is you're going to have 4 panels. Now they're all locked within one window. I would say, starting off for this course, I would probably create a folder. Just say, stat E100, probably the easiest. And I'm going to actually, you can't move this while it's here, so I'm actually going to, if you want to close a file, you click the little X in the corner, it disappears. If you want to exit the session, you can just close it off. It asks you to save the workspace image. We're not going to save that for now. It's not really relevant for the course. It's kind of technical. But I'll just take you through, I think, what's probably the easiest approach, which is we'll put our little desktop icon here. Like if we want like a sort of our playground, I guess, our sandbox. Here you have a simple folder. You have your RStudio icon, and we're assuming we've installed everything. And here we're ready to rock and roll. We open this, and we're going to open a file, and we're going to go to our desktop, and we're going to go open. Let's see, where are we? It looks like state. Maybe that's not the best name. We're going to open this little script file. Now what happens is, if you do some interesting stuff, I'm going to type, let's say, 2 + 2. And then you'll see that the script actually turns red because I added some lines of code here. I'm going to do Control-S, but let's do it, we'll save it like this. We're just going to save. Now, that's what you're going to do. You want to save, save your script files. There's something a little more complex called an R project. I think we can ignore that for now. But the main point is to save your file. If it's red, you're going to lose all the code that you worked really hard to keep. For now, I would use your script interface to basically have this at the top of your code, and then have this right here. I think that's probably easiest. And just run everything right here. So you'll see everything. It'll do some installation. And then here we see 2 + 2 = 4. That's the first time, every time you open up RStudio, you have to run this little section. After that, I'm going to make this full screen. After that, then you can just do whatever you want here. So now I want to know what, 2 times, this number is. Let's just see if R can actually run this. Okay, good. It gave us the outputs. Great. You can use it as a calculator. You can do your some basic math here. But again, we have to save this as a new script, and we're going to save it again. File, save. Now I want to quit this session. I'm going to go into the upper right-hand corner and click X. Now it says, do you want to save your workspace image? I would say you should save your workspace image. What that does is that it's sort of like saving, if you play video games and you want to save your video game, it brings your video game exactly back where you had saved it. It's like you're playing Legend of Zelda or Super Mario Brothers. I'm going old school here. And then you want to, well, actually, Zelda was the first video game to actually save. That I believe that had you saving. So you don't want to start from scratch. You want to start from where you ended. Now what you should see is you're going to open this up and you're going to see my little, okay, well, this looks familiar. Huh, I never had to open the R code, R script. Okay. Oh, look, here it has the other, the script that I just typed out right here. I'm going to do this because that needs to be here. Okay. So here we have your basic interface, a little bit of advice, I think, just for starting out. As the weeks go along, you're going to learn it very quickly. And, there's more cool stuff. I'm happy to talk, with you about all of these things. What I want to do now is walk us through the RStudio environment, or what is known as the IDE, the Interactive Development Environment. And this is an environment because if you recall, and I'm gonna reopen our base R. This is boring R. No, let's just, whoops. Let's see if this takes us there. Okay. Well, that's boring, right? Pretty gray, pretty dull. What it has what's called an R console. Here we have that exact same console when you start out right here. So it's an interactive development environment, not just a programming environment, because the console is itself an environment, but it's an interactive environment because it has these 4 panels. This is the basic setup right here in the upper left. And you can, of course, change anything you want, but let's stick with the default. So here we have in the lower left-hand corner, if I wanted to type these things, the script, I can type within here, actually. Sorry. And then, no, it's 2. Is that a 2? Yep. And then you can get 4 here. Or if I want to just copy and paste, so if I want to copy and paste into the console, you can do that too. And it'll run what I just did. So, but the nice thing is here you have a file that's part of your system that you can sort of see and interact with that is nice and easy to handle. That's the upper left-hand corner. Are there any questions before I begin to this next section? Yes, Alina.
Sorry again. So for some reason, my environment and history are in the upper right quadrant rather than being clustered together with file plots, packages, and whatnot. And my plots are in the lower right quadrant. The version, I'm not sure. I think I downloaded the same version, so my screen looks different. I don't know if it matters.
Okay, it really shouldn't matter. The orientation, if you go to About, or I'll show you. If you want to know what version you have, Alina, you can actually even text me. If you can chat within Zoom, feel free to do that. Go to the Help, and then, which is all the way to the right, and go to About RStudio, and you can see what version you might have. But to be clear, to confirm, Alina, you had actually successfully installed RStudio.
Somebody help me.
Oh, okay. What was there a difficulty you encountered?
Well, I'm a physician and I use my work computer that has a higher security parameter. So I had to, my IT folks override admin rights and do all the bells and whistles. So I had to use somebody because I don't have rights to my laptop.
Yes, and I would have to say that is one of the most common problems here. If you're not working on a personal computer, but you do have a work computer, you may encounter those kinds of problems.
Okay.
There are people you can turn to here at Harvard. I'm going to put that link right in the script, actually.
Thank you.
See if I can find this. Yeah. And they will help you more with the with some of these IT stuff, because I know not everybody has wonderful IT people.
So my version is exactly the same like yours.
Yes.
It's okay.
I was going to answer your question. I apologize. I just wanted to see what came of that. Go to this link right here, and click on the first link, which is computer facilities, which they should be able to help you with the installation. In fact, I'm going to give you that right here. There's that link as well. So
we cannot really click on your screen, but if you put it in the chat,
What's that?
I don't know if we can click on your screen, like to copy and paste from your screen.
Oh, no, you can't. I apologize for that.
Right, but if you put it in the chat, then we can just grab it.
Oh, thank you so much.
Sorry?
No, that's okay. That's great. That's great. So...
And just to come to the defense of wonderful IT people everywhere, if they're really wonderful, there's no way they're going to let you download this onto your work computer.
Okay. Thank you, Don. I actually didn't know that.
As an IT person myself who supports 5,000 people, I would never let them download software onto their work computers.
Got it. Thank you, Don. Okay. So I much appreciated from Oklahoma. I defer to the gentleman from Oklahoma.
Well, I travel a lot with my laptop, so they let me do things because.
Yeah, exactly. I work in an academic environment in a setting, which of course we have security stuff, but this is kind of our bread and butter, these kinds of things. So if we go to chat, let's see. Well, I'm sorry, I'm not sure how to go to chat. I think I can chat all of you. Is that right? Alina, could you chat me, for instance, and then I can...
Yeah, you got it. So you need to go all the way to the bottom of your screen, your own screen, and see like this console with chat and participants and everybody. And I can send you personal chat.
Okay, I apologize to everybody. This is
no problem.
Yeah, this is the first time this course has actually used Zoom before. So,
do you see little chat console? No.
I don't see a chat console, but
I think you have to just go lower on your screen.
Right, like with your mouse all the way down, and then it'll kind of
down. No, nothing's coming.
Well, since I'm sharing the desktop, let's see. Okay, thank you, everyone. Appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, I'll give you the link for computer facilities. So this should be to everybody. That is the link for technology services at the Extension School.
You accidentally send it to me privately. I apologize because I sent you a private message. So all you need to do in the chat, instead of just seeing like two and my name in the blue bubble, just to everybody. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you so much. And here are their hours right here. This is, of course, Boston time. Hours for computing services. Well, so they say they're open 24/7 at the Science Center.
Nice hours.
Yeah, it is good. We'll see if we can get a person. If not, feel free to contact me. I will figure something out. for everyone. But that's, I think, more of the nuts and bolts of installation. Okay, let's go back to the interface. So we had a question, a great question about, well, does it matter that my version of RStudio has these panels in a different order? No, it shouldn't matter a bit, right? These are just, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I'm a little surprised about why that may be, but it doesn't matter. That's fine. Let's see if I can check for updates. Yeah, I'm using the newest version, so who knows? Regardless, you can actually, if you're curious to know what window is which, you should see, at the very least, this is what you should see. You should see 4 panels, and one of those panels should have tabs here, and they should have 6 tabs in that panel. And you should see 4, by the way, after you open your first R script. When you start out, you're going to see 3. But you're going to do the drop-down menu, and there are a lot of really cool other kinds of files we can open. But we're just, again, we're sticking with the script now. And that should open it, at least in one of your panels. Typically, canonically, it's in the upper left-hand corner. But let's go back, and we're going to reopen our script that we had before. We can actually open recent. We can open a recent file. We're going to open this one right here. And as I said before, there's the canonical script. I'm going to send this link to you. These are just other resources, mathematical and statistical resources available to students as well. So I'm going to send that to everyone here. Okay, great. You should be able to get that link. And of course, that is all that's available on the course website, but I'm hoping this is easier. So to go with RStudio, here, I encourage you, take a look at this website to learn about RStudio. But of course, there are also resources within the IDE or interactive development environment. So the reason we had this is simply because this is more user-friendly. It is open source. It is free. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of language here, a little bit of terminology here, and I'm just going to describe what's in each of these panels. I want to save this the script file. So what you have here in the upper left-hand corner is going to 99% of the time it's going to be your script. What you have up here are drop-down menus. Most of the time you're going to probably, if you want to quit the session, you're going to go here. If you want to create a new file, you're going to go here, and you're going to click on our scripts. You're going to create that. If you're going to open a file, you're going to click that, and you'll see that there are keyboard shortcuts for everything. And you're going to save right here. So these are probably the most important things to do right here. Editing, you can, if you make a mistake in your code, you can do that in your script. I would say that's not really that important. However, if you go to the edit menu, you may want to do this, and this is very useful, which is to deal with this. The R console is basically you talking to R. So I'm telling R right now, you know, hello world. It's sort of a famous programming statement. I'm going to do this right here. I've typed in a little command, and then I just typed in, I'm going to type D, and then look, okay, the computer spoke back to me. Now this is, of course, the R console. Often when you do a lot of work, you might find it to be sort of cluttered. So if you want to just clear your brain and make things a little bit more simple for yourself, it's like shaking an Etch-a-Sketch. Sometimes we just want to clear the console. And I want to point that to you in the edit drop-down menu. You can just do this right here. And of course, you can also use the keyboard shortcut, Control L. Let's do this. Oh, look, we're clean. What this did, it did nothing except just aesthetically clear your console, which if you want to keep life simple, sometimes that's better to do. I like doing it because you want to keep things simple and focus on the task at hand. It doesn't change your script. It doesn't do anything else. If you notice this little thing, there's still something here, and we'll talk about that later. But if I want to type hello world, it won't forget. Right? So what that does in the edit menu, I'd say the most valuable drop-down command right here is clear console. Now there are the other standard ones like cut, copy, and paste. You might want to copy and paste some stuff here instead of using keyboard shortcuts. In terms of code, there's a lot of really cool stuff here. We're going to bracket that for now. Just keep in mind, there's a lot of cool stuff you can do. That's what we'll say for now. In terms of view, this is perhaps, if you want to change your layouts, I call them panels. RStudio, I guess, calls them panes. I'm showing all the panes. I think it's useful to do that, especially starting out. You want to get a bird's eye view of everything that's going on. If you want to look at the pane layouts, you can actually alter that. Right, this is the appearance. And of course, you can do a lot of other crazy stuff like, you know, if you're really into programming, you can also check spelling. You can change the way the code looks like. You can, you know, make it black. You can do other things. You can apply that. But we're going to cancel that. Well, there it is. Okay. We're going to go, well, you know what we're going to do? We're going to try this. Edit, we're going to see if undo. No, that doesn't work. Okay. So appearance apparently doesn't matter with undoing. So, but let's get back to anything else that I want to sort of point your direction to. I would say nothing, you know, that important here. But if you don't mind, we're going to go to panes again. We'll work about that later. Plots are going to be very important in this course when we start talking about these kinds of things. When we talk about creating graphics, and you're going to see that in its own what I see in the upper right-hand corner. It could be elsewhere. And you'll see that right here. Label plots. If you notice, it's in bold, as these are, and as is the console. These are the elements of the RStudio interface. This is something I wrote and I created. What's in bold are the tabs and the panes that is part of the software of RStudio. So, you know, here you have plots. You can create plots that they will appear here. And then when you're done, you can save it as an image. You can export it. You can copy it to your clipboard, which is just like typing Control-C. What I want, and for every one of these windows, by the way, you don't have to close it. You can also minimize it. So if you look at this is the minimization right here. And then there it is, increasing in size. You can also hover you can also hover over the sections between the panes, and you can sort of alter, the size of each one. You can make one larger or smaller, for instance. So you can do all these things. But the only downside I would have to say, or for me at least, is you can't unpin these panes. All of these are going to be connected. That's neither here nor there, but it's just something, some people have asked me before, oh, can I just have this on like as a separate window, like as a different tab if you're, if you're opening up, say, for instance, a tab in your web browser. You can't do that in RStudio. If you found a way, let me know, because I've searched far and wide. But with R, you know, that's something you can't do with RStudio. Okay. So you can, you know, I'm going to continue with the sort of the main drop-down menu here. Here we have the R session. Now, a session is simply whenever you open a script, whenever you start R, whenever you open and close something, that's an R session. To close it, as I've done several times, you just click on the little X in the upper right-hand corner. You can do this. You can do other things. We can talk about setting the source, setting the working directory, but I think for now, let's not worry about that at the moment. But you can ignore the build configure tools. Debugging, that's more for complex syntax. I think we can ignore that for now. Tools, these will be relevant, I think, as soon as we do other things. Oh, and by the way, it's relevant if you want to install packages. And look at this. Actually, I have evidently a repository. So I guess this is the way R works. I actually prefer to type in install packages this way because you have a written record, and I recommend you do that for the course. But if you want to just install packages this way, you can do that, but I wouldn't worry about that. Version control should not be an issue. All that means is how recent or how new is your software. If you run into bugs or if you run into problems, talk to me, ask me, feel free to ask me, tell me issues that you might have, and I'll be happy to answer those kinds of questions. There are other options here. That's not really relevant. I want to take us to the final and most important section, which is help. We all want help when we start something new, and fortunately, RStudio has some pretty good help. Again, on the downside, perhaps maybe it's more information than you're ever asking for. I would really recommend going through the course resources, in particular the Mosaic what is it on the course website? For statistical software, the Student's Guide to R, I think, is the best document. And I'm going to give you text you that link, even though it's available on the course website. I'll give that to you in the chat as well. Type right here. That is I think, the go-to document for the course. And I'm going to stay really close. We're going to stay really close to the material within that student's guide. That being said, I don't want to hold anyone back. If you're really curious, I'm happy to talk to you about some of these issues and some of these questions. You go to tools, to help. You can go to our help right here and check this out. All it really did is it just opened up the tab that we had in the lower right-hand corner. Oh, well, okay. Well, look at this. Here we have our little panel here. Well, what exactly is this? Well, this is probably the most useful panel here, the one most packed with information. You'll see a lot here. So you could click the help, or you could just go to help. Before we do that, I want to just show you this little thing right here. Whenever you work within the R environment, hold on for a second. I don't like the way this looks. I want to go back to, where were we? Sorry. I want to change the view. Here we go. Here we go to view. I just want to change the look of the panes. pane layouts. Here we go, appearance. I really don't, I'm dissatisfied with my console here. Code, appearance. Let's just go back to, let's see if it says default. No, it doesn't, that's okay. We'll just go to, we'll pick something here. Oh, by the way, this is also very good if you want larger font. I'm gonna increase the font for you guys. No, we won't actually. We're gonna keep it at 10. We'll start with this, or you could just go to general. You know, if you want to change those aspects, but we'll apply the appearance here, and we'll go back to how we were before. It's going to restart. Okay, this looks relatively a little bit closer to what we had before. Again, this is all pretty arbitrary. So here I showed you the script console. Sorry, the script pane, the console pane, which is essentially R. And there's always going to be a little blinking cursor there, and there's going to be this little arrow there. That's the command prompt. That's it saying, okay, what do you want to type in? You have the plot pane, which will show you the figures of the plots once we create those. What you have here in the lower pane are quite a few things here. Keep them all, I would say. But I want to show you this little thing. This is, by the way, your workspace pane. You want to get this little brush here, and you want to clear the objects from your workspace sometimes, because here I have a little object in your workspace. And I'll include the hidden objects. Okay. So the environment here, this is an important concept here. When we think about environment, we think about environmentalism, we think about, you know, the planet, we think about the world that we work in, you know, a workplace environment. When we talk about programming and statistics, the word environment carries on a different term. It's another bit of lingo or jargon that can unnecessarily confuse people. Think of this as just, I think I like workspace here. What R does is it has a little workspace for you. They call it the environment because that's the origin of the language, basically. It's technically called an object-oriented language because you can define little things that are called objects. I know this is can get a little tedious and dull at times, but it's important just to get over some of the more boring stuff so we can actually get to the material. I'm hoping we can breeze through this. What this does is this shows you everything like a data set, that you have. So, if you want to say load a data set in R, it'll appear right here. If you want to load, for instance, define an object or create your own data set, you can do that as well. So let me show you. So R has a number of built-in data sets. I'm going to actually type this right here. Look what happened here. We have something called iris here. Well, so this is now defined as an object within your environment. It's a different kind of object, but there are also other kinds of objects. There are, as I did before, I did just a text object. So hello world. I did this right here, and I'm going to highlight this, and then I'm going to click run. And now I assigned the letter D to this. And the most important, if there's one thing you have to learn about R, it's this little thing right here, this little backwards arrow. It's this with a little hyphen. That's called the assignment operator. What you are saying here is, I'm assigning this stuff that I put in parentheses to the letter D. It's a shorthand. It's a shortcut, you know. Think of it this way. OMG. What does that mean? Well, oh my, whoa, sorry about that. Oh my goodness. Or gosh, we could say even gosh. Okay, well, OMG, what does that mean? Oops, sorry about that. You want to switch panels. You want to click, so that's one thing to point out is when you switch from one panel to another, especially when starting out, make sure you double click between the script and then the console. I'm going to type OMG. Typically when you type things out, when it's like something short, you get something like this. Technically, what you're doing is you're actually printing this. You're actually displaying this on the screen. So what you really should do is type that. That's the technical way of doing it. So what I just want to show to you, just give you an idea, and you don't have to learn all of the details here, is that when you run R script and you load data, you have something called an environment, a global environment. And it's called global because it's within your entire session. So it's as long as from the beginning to the end of your session, these objects, these little things that you populate as you do your work, they're there for your help. They can also be sometimes a little bit problematic if you forget, you know, if you have 50 objects and you forget what they are, and you know, you think, okay, I want to type the letter D to mean, you know, the number 4, you know. Whoops, I just overrode my previous one. So you want to be careful about that. And that's why this list of objects is quite helpful. And also this little search bar here. Oh, okay, that's what you have is listed as D. So that's one particular feature of R in general, or unique singular feature of R, which is that it operates within a global environment. So it's a global object-oriented programming environment. A global, in other words, a global environment because you're creating a little workspace where you create little things that stick around. And these little things we call objects, and it's global because they stay until you're the end of your session. A lot of programming languages don't do that. If you want to remove all your objects, you can go like that. The other so I think that's the most important thing here. There is a tab here to save your workspace, to import a data set from a local file or from a web site. Using the Mosaic package, you won't need to do that. Everything is preloaded. We're making, you know, these nuances you shouldn't have to worry about. But just keep in mind, this thing will populate, and it just sort of think of it as a sandbox. You also have a history file. Look at this, everything that I typed out, it doesn't forget. Look how many times I typed Mosaic getting us started. That's good if you want to save things, if you want to just do things interactively, and then, you know, say I want to save, you know, some of my commands here. Well, oh, I guess it won't. I guess technically it won't do that. The better way to do that is to do that within the console. Okay, but you can rerun. You can rerun syntax. That's the nice thing about it. Or just remember what you've written. Files here. These are different kind of files here, but what you'll probably see is something called RData and RHistory that's installed within your R home directory. Again, whenever you close, you save a session. I wouldn't worry too much about it. You have something called R here. Let's see what's in my R file. Okay, nothing much here. You know, let's just go home. You don't really need to worry about it unless you want to do more interesting things with documents. This has to do with working directory. A working directory is simply where do you want to start out and where do you want to end up? And we can talk about that later. But for now, let's just sort of, I would elide or skip this little section right here. Now remember, we had addressed this issue here. We have packages. This is relevant only for the packages we need for the course, which appear to be these three: Psych, Mosaic, and Mosaic Data. And sometimes you may want to update these. Other than that, you'll see that, I mean, I'm kind of zany here. You know, this is just far more than I actually like or need, right? Although I use all of these. But the nice thing is I don't use up memory, and I don't worry about them. Help is where you really want to go. So in the workspace pane, I would keep it at an environment just so you're aware of what it is you're doing. And I would look at help, because this is where you can get a lot of really interesting stuff. And these are all web links. You know, an introduction to R, there's a R manual. That being said, you don't have to learn everything. There's a lot more to learn. Everybody, I talk to my colleagues, I talk to people who've been working with R for 10 years. You cannot learn everything in R. It is bigger than all of us. It's like trying to read every page in Wikipedia. That's where the humility is required. What I do like is, if you want to go to an R tip of the day, or if you want to go to, let's see, do they have that here? Well, I thought they had R cheat sheets. Yeah, I like these little cheat sheet things. I'll take that too. I'll take that right here. The cheat sheet that I would direct you toward, actually, all that little link did was it took you to this this URL right here. So I'm going to text this link right here. I'll chat it to everybody. And of course, I'm going to give this, provide this for everybody else in the course as well. These are very nice little PDFs that you can download and print. I'm going to show you the one that I want you to download, I think, to really cement your knowledge of R. Skip R Markdown. We're not using it. But keep this, the RStudio Interactive Development Cheat Sheet. It's a nice little handy thing. Not everyone can remember everything. We'll download it now. Let's see if I have it under download. Otherwise, I'm going to get up and I'll show it to you. All right, is this in camera? I'm not sure. Do you guys see this? Can you nod your head? Thank you, Alina. All right. Easy. I would keep this just at your fingertips because it has just 2 pages. Try to use a color printer. It tells you sort of what I said, only a lot more. And any questions that you have, you can just consult this. And I think it's one of the coolest things that RStudio has recently come up with. The first page, by the way, describes some of the issues that I discussed. In particular, I would say you should probably focus mostly on these 2 issues right here. Write code and R support. Those 2 panels I think are important. You don't need to worry about debugging or version control. The other thing that's useful are the keyboard shortcuts. Just like Microsoft Word, there's a whole page of keyboard shortcuts that are just useful, if you're writing that kind of code. And that's what's so great about R. There are a lot of people contributing to its development. In terms of other cheat sheets for that, I think I would skip some of that, except at the bottom of the page, you see something called Base R and Advanced R. And if you're really enterprising, I encourage you to look at the Base R cheat sheet. That being said, I see a question there. That being said, I'm here to teach you everything you need for the course, for getting us from here to the end of the course. I'm just giving you little arrows if you want to go a little bit beyond, what the course might offer for those of you. None of this is required. You do not need to look at this. You do not need to study this. Focus on what is on the course websites, because those are the bases of the quizzes. Those are the basis of the other, essentially the core material that we're presenting in the course. Yes, a question, Alina?
Yes, just a quick question, maybe just to help me understand the extent of how much of the R we're going to use for like projects and stuff, and some of the examples of the application. I'm very far from coding, so I cannot even grasp to understand what I'm going to do with it.
I totally understand it, and I think that is what we're trying to do in this course, is to remove as much as possible the programming components of the course and really have students focus on the concepts, because I'm trained as a sociologist. I came into graduate school with not programming experience, but actually as a social scientist. So I'm really interested and I'm really devoted to ensuring that we focus on the concepts and nothing on the techie programming stuff. This is probably the most techie we're going to get in this course, because I want to get it quick and out of the way so we can move quickly to making cool graphs, looking at the visuals, and basically doing as little programming as possible. I just wanted to translate some terms that for me, when I started out, were a little confusing. What is a library? Well, I know what a library is in real life, but what is a library here? What is an environment? How do I get started? I hope my goal is for us to get to that point and to have that script. So you should have simply this little bit of script at the top, and then after that, you need not write any code at all. You can just do everything through drop-down menus, more or less, with some caveats, actually, because when we talk about doing the statistics, you will have to type out commands. Like if you want to type out, calculate the mean of some numbers, you will have to actually use RScript, and then you will work with the interface. There isn't really, that much to get around with that. But what I wanted to do, what I think we can do at least, is not worry about all of these bells and whistles here, really. I think we can focus on help, environments. We can open and close files here, and make sure that we have this, this syntax here at the top. And as I said, that's about it. You will have to type in some code. You will have to type in some syntax, and that's what we're doing for each of the following sessions. For the rest of the courses, I'm going to focus only on the scripts that we really need to learn the concepts, to say, how do you calculate a mean for that? So we can't avoid, using the console, but we can avoid a lot of unnecessary pain and hardship in terms of, I think, the more complex stuff. So, any other questions at all? No? Okay. So, what I'd like to do is, I think we have a few minutes left. If you have any more questions about this, in particular installation. I see this as primarily just getting the software installed and Mosaic installed. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or post to the course bulletin page, and I will respond as soon as possible. And I'll try to make everything I can as a video, as an interactive video, so other students in the class can also see it. Because I think, you know, a really smart person said, and this is also true with syntax, with coding, if you want to learn how to swim, do you read a book on swimming? Well, not really. And we've offered you books on swimming, and there's a cheat sheet on swimming, perhaps, that someone could give you, a coach, rather. In programming or coding, you have to learn by doing. And the great thing is, with the Mosaic package and the Mosaic library, it's as easy as possible to get started and really get your hands dirty, because that's how you really learn how to do all of this. You have to learn by doing. And I think my approach is to show you how this works. So I encourage you to get your feet wet, and that's how the course operates. That's how the syntax part operates. So I'm going to try as much as I can to answer in terms of videos. And one thing we're going to do this week, or sorry, this term that we haven't done before, is little 1-minute tidbits, 1-minute tips that help. Because I know, not everyone can pay attention for 2 hours on something, especially when it's difficult. And we're also dealing with new difficult concepts. Statistics is not always easy for everybody, but everyone can learn. And that's the exciting part about it. And you're going to learn this. And you're going to learn R, which is one of the most important programming languages in the world. Everyone will be impressed that you've learned R, that you've done this, especially after an introductory course. And the great news is you're going to know enough R to get started and to do what you need to do. And then after that, if you never want to touch R again, that's fine. But if you want to keep going, the world's your oyster. So are there any other questions? Anything else? Anything else? Okay. And by the way, feel free to email me as well. I think I have my information on the course website. I'll give you my email. That being said, I would prefer to, rather than, I'm sure if anyone is asking any particular question, there are dozens of others who are also thinking the same thing. You're not alone in your concerns or challenges. So that's why I'm trying to, socialize or make social this sharing of knowledge. That I won't divulge the person asking the question, but I'm actually going to give you my contact info. And a final, 2 final points I want to make just about logistics, course logistics. We're giving new material every Thursday of the course. I'm also going to give a more polished, stylized tutorial. We're not sure about the length, but I'm using a different program for that. That will walk you through the syntax, that will, I hope will be a resource for you, that we might also mirror or copy within the I guess office hours, and within office hours and section, but that's totally fine. But I just wanted to tell you, Thursdays from in this course, you're gonna get material like this. What I wanted to do is give you a sort of a section before the other TAs, because I'm really eager to get the ugly part out of the way, because I don't want anyone to worry about installing the software.
You're going to publish the video, right, on the course website?
Oh, yes. This, of course, every section will be provided. In addition to every section, I am providing, I think, what I hope to be a cleaner, nicer, more polished version of the material covered. just because I think it's a little more efficient and faster.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course, it's my job. Thank you, though. And finally, I actually am speaking to you from Harvard on campus, so feel free to stop by in person for office hours. I'm happy to do that as well. That's it. Are there any final questions? I'm going to give you my email address. And then my office hours. And the location, this is at CGIS South, 1730 Cambridge Streets, and room S312, third floor. Okay, and I'm happy. Those are both virtual, so you can talk to me via Zoom as well as in person. So whatever it is you'd like, but I'm here to be available to you. So I think that's it for today. I welcome your questions. I do want to say one last thing. If you haven't done so, please post 2 truths and a lie. I have 2 truths and a lie. I have willingly not answered that.
We saw that.
What's that?
I saw that. I'm so curious about you being related to the Ethan.
To Ethan, exactly. We do wonder that, right? I have willingly sort of refrained from answering that because I want as many of you to participate as possible, and that's how you build suspense. But go to the bulletin board today, and maybe you'll get an answer or a couple explanations. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Please be in touch. Please be in contact. I'm here for you. Okay. Take care. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Bye.